Dog gives birth. Then the vet realizes they're not puppies. Animals being rescued certainly gives everyone a feeling that all is well in the world. This often happens with animals such as dogs and cats, and the fact that dogs are considered as man's best friend is a testament to that. Saving lives, especially lives that are about to bring more life into this world, which is the case in this story. Rescuers managed to rescue a pregnant dog, and when the time came for it to give birth, they couldn't believe what they saw. While a pregnant rescued golden retriever was brought into an animal shelter, new employee Macy took it upon herself to care for it. Macy had already been informed by the veterinarian that the puppies did not appear normal on an ultrasound. Still, when the big day arrived, she was completely taken aback by the cow puppies the golden retriever had given birth to. How could this have happened? Macy awoke to the sound of a howling coming from downstairs. She could tell it was time. Bella was on the verge of giving birth. She jumped out of bed and dashed to the rescued golden retriever's bed. They'd been through so much together, and seeing her in such pain broke Macy's heart. But now was not the time to feel sorry for Bella because Macy needed to concentrate on assisting with the delivery of the puppies. She couldn't stop herself from being enthralled. The vet had warned her that these would not be ordinary puppies. But then what the hell would they be? Macy couldn't believe her eyes when the first puppy finally started crowning after 2 hours of labor. The vet had warned her, but she had not anticipated this. The puppy, it resembled a cow. Bella had just given birth to what on God's green earth? And now what's Macy supposed to do? It's not uncommon for a dog rescued from the streets to arrive at the rescue station pregnant. Animals on the streets are reduced to their basic survival and procreation instincts. What's unusual is that the rescue station is well equipped to deal with pregnant dogs. This particular station had a veterinarian with whom they collaborated, but the veterinarian wasn't present. When a pregnant golden retriever arrived, they had no idea how to handle the situation. They were already severely understaffed, and this dog clearly required a lot of attention. Could they handle her and all of the other responsibilities? Working with the dog would not end once she gave birth because there would be more work to do with the puppies once she had her litter. Furthermore, one of the senior technicians felt that something was very wrong with this pregnancy and that it needed to be resolved right away. For the time being, many options for dealing with this situation are being discussed. Some options were obviously more appealing than others. They considered transporting the dog to another station and recruiting another volunteer. They were also thinking about euthanizing her. It was unfortunate that such a depressing option was available, but it had to be considered. Given how busy the station was and how understaffed it was, the average staff member was leaning towards euthanasia. However, the main reason the dog received the assistance and attention she was required was due to a relatively new and inexperienced employee at the rescue station named Macy. Macy had always had a thing for animals, particularly dogs. She knew she wanted to work with animals from a young age and has always imagined herself as a veterinarian. She began attending school for it and everything. Her life goals, however, shifted following an experience she had while on a relief trip in Indonesia. Macy had seen happy dogs and the excellent care of their respective owners in America. However, this was not the case in Indonesia, where malnourished and often sick dogs were abandoned and roamed the streets wherever she went. She hadn't even come to help the dogs, but rather the people. However, seeing all the sad dogs broke Macy's heart. When Macy returned to the United States, she began researching street dogs and how to assist them. She was surprised to learn how many street dogs there were. They weren't just in small town where she grew up, but they were even more prevalent in the nearby big city. All Macy wanted to do after that help these puppies. She moved to Boston when she was 18 and applied to a stray dog rescue center. Because the station was understaffed, she was hired almost immediately. Macy was optimistic and determined. When Macy was only in her second week, the pregnant golden retriever, Bella, arrived, and they discussed what to do with her. When the option of euthanasia was raised, Macy decided to intervene. She couldn't stand by and watch a pregnant animal be euthanized for the sake of convenience. Macy offered to work extra hours to complete her regular duties and provide extra care for Bella. The station had appreciated Macy's offer and delegated full responsibility for Macy to Bella. Macy decided to take her home for the time being so she could monitor her overnight. For the next few weeks, Macy commuted back and forth between her house and the station, working 2 jobs at the same time. Fortunately, she lived near the station and had assistance from a roommate who also liked dogs. Macy felt like she was assisting, even though things were only going to get more complicated from here. Other station employees did their best to cover some of Macy's tasks, making her life a little easier and giving her more time to care for Bella. They were moved by her commitment to and compassion for this dog. However, there was only so much they could do because the station was once again understaffed. Unfortunately, even with the assistance of her colleagues, Macy was still struggling. Bella was struggling in the final weeks of her pregnancy. Macy had to take Bella to the vet several times while she was caring for her. Of course, this only added to the stress of the situation. All of Macy's trips to the vet cost her a lot of time and money. She began to question whether it was all worth it. What would become of Bella and the puppies once they arrived? Macy didn't have enough money to keep them cared for much longer. She tried not to be too disheartened. Macy tried her hardest to push her concerns about Bella's health and finances to the back of her mind. What was most important right now was Bella and her puppy's health. The doctor was able to keep Bella stable with medication, but seemed overly interested in the ultrasound when checking on the puppies. The ultrasound didn't reveal much to the veterinarian, but based on what he could see, he was almost certain Bella hadn't been laying with another golden retriever, a Labrador, another dog, or anything remotely similar. The puppies appeared strange indeed. Macy, on the other hand, was pretty sure that wasn't possible. The veterinarian ended up showing the ultrasound images to a couple of colleagues, but no one could pinpoint exactly what was wrong with these puppies. This began to concern Macy. Did this imply they were unhealthy? This made her worried about how much money she was putting into it if the puppies were going to die anyway. Bella was a street dog, so she could have been impregnated by anything that can breed with dogs. What was Macy going to have to deal with when these puppies were born? Are they even puppies? Macy was certain that wasn't possible, but the vet was certain that these were not dogs. Macy inquired as to the health of the puppies, or whatever they were. The veterinarian assured her that while the ultrasound appeared strange, it did provide a good indication that the puppies were currently healthy. Despite everything else, this was the most important thing to Macy, and she could find comfort in it. After Macy returned Bella from the vet, she knew it would only be a matter of days before Bella gave birth. Macy wisely took the days off from working at the shelter because she knew where her attention should be for the time being. Macy was concerned enough by what the vet had seen to know she needed to be with Bella for this. During this time, Macy began to notice an increasing bond between herself and Bella because even though the dog was in pain, Macy could still sense how much love Bella had to give. Her desire to keep Bella grew stronger by the day. This, however, brought with it some difficulties. Because Macy already lived in a small apartment and barely had enough money to support herself, giving Bella the life she deserved would be a real challenge. Not to mention the puppies Bella was looking forward to. Macy couldn't possibly handle that many dogs, but she adored Bella and wanted to assist her in any way she could. But what would Macy do with the puppies? She could make it work with just Bella, but not with the puppies. Macy had hoped that she'd be given more time to make a decision about everything, but this was not the case. The puppies were on their way, and they were coming soon. Bella went into labor that night. Macy had hoped that when it happened, it would at least be during the day, but as luck would have it, Bella went into labor at 2 a.m., exactly as she'd done in the past. Unfortunately, Macy's hopes were dashed. It was like just a moment ago, she was filled with hope, and then it just vanishes in a flash. Before going to bed, Macy placed a baby monitor on the dog pen with Bella, hoping to be awakened by Bella's cries if she went into labor. She knew the time was approaching, but she couldn't stay awake all night waiting for it. So she went to bed after putting the monitor in the dog pen. Macy was naturally sleeping when Bella went into labor. When the baby monitor abruptly began blasting cries next to Macy's ear, she needed a moment to realize what was going on and confirm that she was awake and not dreaming. She'd spent far too much of the previous few days attempting to complete exhaustion. Macy quickly changed into some old jogging pants and a t-shirt and headed downstairs. This could quickly turn ugly. When Macy turned on the light, she was relieved to see that Bella was still in the early stages of labor. Macy would have to put her skills from the shelter to the test. Bella's tongue was hanging out of her mouth and she was breathing heavily, her entire body twitching with each heave. Macy dashed off to get some towels and a bucket of water. The pen's entire purpose was to contain the mess, but that didn't mean Macy wouldn't have to work hard to keep the mess from spreading. Macy wanted to help Bella in any way she could, but she also knew that this was a process that would have to go through on her own. She stroked Bella's face and made it clear that she was always there for her. After about half hour of pushing, Macy began to see the first of the puppies. Macy felt a rush of nervousness and excitement. She still didn't know what kind of puppies Bella was going to have because she didn't know what kind of dog Bella had mated with. However, she was about to find out, and the anticipation had her on the edge of her seat. When Bella's first puppy was finally born, Macy's excitement quickly turned to shock. Those freckles, that nose, those legs. Macy was unsure if this was even a dog. The puppy was unlike any dog Macy had ever seen. Was it looking a lot more like a tiny baby cow? Macy'd never seen anything like this before. But how could this have happened? Dog genetics can be strange at times, but the puppy should at least look partially like Bella because she was their mother. They should definitely look more like Bella than the cows they were before, but Macy didn't have time to worry about that now because there were a lot more puppies, or whatever these animals were, that needed to be safely brought into this world. Macy cleaned up the first suspect puppy and wrapped it in a towel bundle to keep it warm until its siblings arrived. Bella had begun to push the next puppy out, and wouldn't you know it, it resembled the first. And so did the one after that. Why did all these puppies look like cows? Macy pinched herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming, but she was the most definitely awake, unless she was dreaming that she was dreaming. After a 2.5-hour process, the entire litter of what should be puppies was born into this world. Macy was still convinced she was seeing things at 4:30 in the morning. The puppies all had the same odd appearance, but she wasn't hallucinating. This had undoubtedly occurred. Unsure what to do next, Macy decided to stay up all night to ensure that all the animals survived until she could take them into the shelter later that morning. The shelter's veterinarian would be able to tell her more about what was going on. In any case, Macy hoped he could. Macy couldn't take her gaze away from the strange-looking puppies as the night turned into morning and the sun began to rise. Was there something wrong with them? Or was she hallucinating? She hoped the vet could provide her with some answers. She was also half expecting to wake up at any moment and discover that she'd had a dream. Macy piled Bella and the dubious puppies into her car and drove to the shelter as soon as she could. She was already there when the vet arrived. Macy couldn't wait to finally get some answers, despite the fact that it was not the most important thing at the time. What was most important was that Bella and the puppies were alive and appeared to be in good health. The vet would first need to perform a checkup to ensure Macy's assessment of their health was correct. When the vet arrived and Macy brought them in, he raised an eyebrow before starting work. The vet determined that Bella was in good health. Despite Macy's best efforts, she was still tired and dehydrated. She was mostly tired, though. Despite her earlier concerns, she was going to make it through this just fine. Then there was the matter of the puppies. The vet understood Macy's concern because he too thought that they were strange, but he'd finally figured out what had caused this. The spots were most likely caused by Bella mating with a Dalmatian carrying dominant genes. After all, dog genetics can be very strange. Concerning the peculiar characteristics, the puppy's strange, almost cow-like features could be explained by their premature birth. In fact, it's almost a month too early. Everything about them had not yet been fully developed. This, of course, raised more questions. Why had Bella given birth so early? After all, she now had 7 underdeveloped puppies. The vet concluded that whatever trauma Bella had experienced while on the streets had caused her to go into labor prematurely, despite all of Macy's care. Because the puppies were born prematurely, their health was jeopardized. The vet assured Macy that they could stay at the shelter under his care. Fortunately, all the puppies survived and developed into normal, healthy puppies. The shelter placed them for adoption as soon as they were properly weaned and old enough. In less than 2 weeks, every puppy had a home. They ceased to resemble cows and evolved into adorable Dalmatian retrievers. While the puppies were clearly popular with families, Bella was an older dog who had seen a lot. Macy made the decision to adopt Bella and give this lovely and special dog the life she deserved. Macy still works at the shelter, and Bella occasionally joins her there, playing with and cheering up shelter dogs.